Okay, good morning. Can everyone hear me? All right, my name is Patrick Quinn. Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday with AQL Technologies. Today we're going to talk about SharePoint Hub Sites. This is an overview, planning, and strategy. And I'm just going to talk about a few quick things here. I'll pass this over to Samir. So for those of you that have joined us before, this may sound familiar, but we've been doing this for about 20 years now. We founded AQL Technologies in 2006. We have approximately 30 expert developers, analysts, and scientists working with us here. Hundreds of satisfied clients, and we've done hundreds of SharePoint Office 365 projects. We're a Microsoft Gold partner and in SharePoint with content collaboration. You'll see one of those little icons on the right-hand side. That's for SharePoint Planning and Development Services. Those are, if your organization accepts these are the green vouchers that are used for, projects, 1, 3, 5, and 7-day vouchers. AQL is MBE, Minority Business Enterprise, and DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise for the state of Illinois. We're members of the National Minority Supplier Development Council and also the Chicago Minority Development Council. We have clients all over the United States and North America for that matter, and also including France and Australia. We primarily focus on SharePoint and Office 365. We're also doing IT consulting, custom software development, managed SharePoint services, and we even do IT staffing in the Microsoft stack. That includes SharePoint, .NET, SQL Server, and Dynamic 365. AQL Technologies, we attend several SharePoint conferences throughout the United States. We'll be going to SP TechCon in Boston in just a few weeks. Our practice lead, Samir, is a frequent speaker and author. And for those that have joined us for the first time, we do these Tech Talk Tuesdays on a monthly basis. And with that, I'll pass this over to Samir. Thanks for joining us.
Patrick, thank you so much. And without wasting any more time here, guys, I'm going to get started with today's session, SharePoint Hub Sites, overview, planning, and strategy. And then plus, we're going to cover a little more than just these things. We're going to talk about governance, limitations, and a bunch of other things. So let's get started. By the way, before I get started, so as you guys know, I'll be giving out two full passes for the SP TechCon, which is in Boston on August 26th to 29th, and we're going to be announcing the lucky winner at the end of the session today. A little bit about me. The most important thing is my blog, meetsamir.com. I use my blog to post all these webinars that I do. So you can actually find this webinar video on my blog pretty soon. That's my LinkedIn profile. Please feel free to send me a LinkedIn invite, Twitter, email for any questions if you might have. It takes me some time to get back to you with the answers, but I definitely will. Thank you. Let's get started with the Hub Sites. Let's talk about what Hub Sites are. So Hub Sites basically bring together modern team and communication sites into a centralized place. You guys might know about the modern sites, which is the team sites and communication sites. Along with that comes in the Hub Sites, and Hub Sites actually connects all these sites together. This is available only for SharePoint Online as of right now. And from what I know, it's definitely not in SharePoint 2016. From what I know, it's not in 2019 as well. So it's only part of Office 365. Hub Sites let you modify information architecture easily by associating similar sites. You might have a lot of different similar sites that you want to go ahead and group together, and that's where Hub Sites come in. And they are not available by default to implement, which means that when you have your Office 365 and your tenant, you log in, you would not find any place where you can actually go ahead and start associating these Hub Sites. It's going to take a little bit of configuration, courtesy of SharePoint admin, to be able to create Hub Sites and associate sites over to the Hub Sites. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the Hub Site structure. And before that, I'm going to go ahead and pop up a few poll questions over here. I'm going to give it a minute to answer this question. And this is going to help me understand how many of you have actually been using any of these hub sites, or where do you stand on these hub sites? All right, I think everybody answered here. Close this poll and pop open another poll over here, which is which version of SharePoint are you currently using? These questions kind of like help me understand my audience, gauge them, where they're coming from, what kind of versions are they actually using. So give it another 30 seconds. I see SharePoint Online as almost 76% right now, which has been pretty consistent with all of my other polls and all the other webinars as well, where SharePoint Online usually takes the biggest hit. Interesting, very interesting. All right, so let's get started with an information architecture diagram over here, where I have a few communication sites and then a team site. And really what I want to do is that I want to connect these team sites. So these are all, let's just say, managed services site. So AQL has a managed services program, and then we provide managed services on SharePoint, Office 365, K2, Power BI, and a few other technologies. But what I want to do is that this morning or yesterday, I was actually thinking, is there any way that I can actually use hub sites to bring all these different communication sites together under one single umbrella? And that's when comes this idea that, hey, you know what? I can actually create a fourth communication site or a fifth communication site over here. And I don't want to associate Dynamics CRM, but I want to associate, rest of the other communication sites under AQL Managed Services banner. So we're going to go ahead and do a real quick demo of this. We're going to see how there are these communication sites and how I can use another communication site, which is configured as a hub site. And we will configure that site as a hub site as well in this demo, and then connect all of these sites under one single umbrella. So let's get started with the demo here. So here I have, 5 different communication sites. The first one is the managed services site. Second one is SharePoint managed services site, Power BI, Office 365, and K2. So all of these are communication sites. By the way, I can also have team sites as part of the hub site as well. But to start with, the first thing that I want to do here is make this site as the hub site under which all these different practices will come under. So the managed services, and to start with this, as I mentioned before, I need to go ahead and use SharePoint Online Management Shell. This is where I step in the shoes of a SharePoint admin. Without this, you cannot implement hub sites by default. There is no way by default that you can actually configure hub sites through either the central admin or any other setting in Office 365. You have to use SharePoint Online Management Shell, which is by far something that an admin can. So I'm going to register the site that I have. So copy the URL from here and go ahead and host in the URL of the site that I want to make that I want to configure as a hub site. And actually, before I do that, let me go ahead and show you here right now. If I go in, close this down. If I go in settings over here, I don't see any hub site settings over here. Okay, so let's go in here and then configure the hub sites. So the first thing it asks me is that, hey, if you want to make this as a hub site, tell me who is going to be the hub site admin, let's just say, or hub site owner. So I'm not going to enter any names over here, which I can, but we're going to talk about governance down the line of how you should actually assign users who can manage the hub site configuration. But as of right now, I'm just going to hit on enter and just let it pass. So with this command, congratulations, you have just created your first hub site. Hit on refresh over here. And the first thing that I can see, which is different now, is that there's a top navigation over here. There's a managed services top navigation over here, which was not there before. If I click on the settings over here, I can also see that there's a hub site settings over here, which was not there before. So let's go ahead and change some of these settings here. The first thing that I want to do is I want to go ahead and add a logo up in the top, kind of like brand my hub site. Okay, give a little bit of space over there, or write down AQL managed services, hit on save. And I can see the logo up in the top, and the top navigation gets reflected up in the top. Let's go ahead and add a few more links to the top navigation here. And bear in mind that I have not added any of these hub sites. I have not associated any sites to this hub site yet, but I'm still able to modify the top navigation and add any site that I want to. So just go ahead and add links in here. First one is SharePoint. Second one is, and these are other just communication sites that I have created before our webinar here to save some time. And all I'm doing right now is just adding navigation links, and these navigation links can be anything. They don't even have to be part of Office 365 tenant. This is just a static top navigation that I'm adding to over here. And finally, tier 2. Hit on OK, and just for the sake of conversation, I can also go ahead and add a yahoo.com in there. Not that I see that as a place in my hub site, but I just want to show you that, hey, this is a static navigation, and this does not have anything to do with hub site associations at all, and I can just add any link up in the top. So here's my top navigation over here. Also, let's go ahead and change the look and feel. Might be throwing a little bit of red over here. And so here's my red. So far, the only thing that I did is I created a communication site, named it Managed Services, and configured this to be a hub site by running SharePoint Online PowerShell command, modify the top navigation, and change the look and feel. That's all I've done so far. Now I'm going to go ahead and start associating other communication sites to this hub site. And the way I do that is pretty easy. Just go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and just refresh all of these over here. Go fast. Okay. So let's go back to my SharePoint site and click on settings over here. Click on SharePoint information here. And I see a hub site association over here. You won't see this hub site association unless you have added at least one hub site in your tenant. As soon as you have one hub site in your tenant, SharePoint's going to show you this hub site association next to every single modern site. And in here, oh, you know what? I got two hub sites over here, seems like. Okay. So actually, I'm going to go ahead and just rename this managed services settings over here because I have another site with the same name. So I'm going to go ahead and make this as, give it a suffix of 2. See if that reflects. Click on site navigation on my associate site again. And then I see, yes, I see AQL managed services too. So I want to associate this site over here to my managed services. And I'm going to do the same thing for, and as soon as I do that, you can actually feel that the theme is different now. It's all red color. And then the top navigation has also changed. So these are the two primary things that pop out, the themes and then the top navigation. Let me go ahead and do the same thing for all the other sites as well. Site information, site association, click on the site and hit on save. And you can see the same thing over here as well, top navigation, and then the theme changes. Let's do the same thing over here. By the way, feel free to ask me questions, please. I'm going to try answering questions as much as I can in the best interest of time. If I cannot answer those questions, then I will reply back to you and post those questions on my blog site. Hub Site Association. So here I have my hub site and all the sites underneath it. So you can see that how I was able to group all these sites under one single umbrella. Sorry. And okay. All right, sorry. So, and you can see that how I can do that. And one of, and the advantages is, of course, like, the same branding. Now I have the same branding spread across all of my sites, and I have a global navigation as well. A global navigation is something which was lacking in the modern UI pages. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these web parts as well. And you guys might already be familiar with the news web part, events web part, the documents web part, which is really the highlighted contents web part. And then there's the comment section. So I have a second site which I've already prepared with the content that I want to show you. And it's the same managed services site, but it's going to take me quite some time to actually go ahead and create this managed services site within the hour that we have. So what I have is I've set up this managed services site, and it's the same thing. This is a completely different set of sites that I've created. You might have actually seen a suffix of 2 right next to every single site over there. So the same thing has happened over here as well. This is the hub site, and all of these are the associate subsites that I've prepared before. I have also posted news and documents under these hub sites, under these associated sites, which have rolled over to the hub site, a feature of hub site that I'm going to show that to you in a second. So let's scroll down and take a look at my managed services site. So up in the top, as you guys know, this is the hero web part, and I have tiles. Each of these tiles is actually pointing to my associated sites. Down at the bottom, what you're going to see over here is HTML. And this HTML is the managed services package. I'm not going to talk much about these packages anyways, because this is a technology session and I don't want to sound like a sales guy over here. But these are the different managed services packages that we have, and these are available on our website as well. By the way, if you are thinking, hey, how was this? So this is all pure HTML. If you're asking me, hey, there's no HTML web part, or there's no content editor web part like there used to be in the classic sites, how did you implement this HTML in the modern site? The answer is that we have actually used SPFX. So this is an SPFX web part which has been deployed to the modern site with all the HTML within it. Okay. And now if I keep scrolling, underneath that, there's a news web part. Okay. And you can actually see that the news web part over here is getting information from several different sites. The K2 managed services, remember that's the associated site. Okay. So the news is rolling up from Power BI, it's rolling up from Office 365 and SharePoint managed services. So these are the different subsites from which the news is actually rolling up. This is the events web part. Don't have a lot of events over here to show you. But then this is the documents web part, which is actually the highlighted contents web part. The highlighted contents web part is, again, pulling up all the information from the subsites. It's rolling up the information from, I shouldn't be saying subsites, because unlike the classic approach, we don't have subsites anymore. We have Microsoft recommends having a flat information architecture, which means that you're going to end up with a lot of site collections. And as all of you might already know, all the modern sites, maybe the team site or maybe the communication site, these are all site collections in themselves. So all these site collections or all these associated sites are rolling up the documents up to this site as well. And finally, down at the bottom, I have the sites web part, which is pulling information from, which is pulling activities from all of the associated sites. Let's go ahead and edit this page real fast and take a look at some of the properties of these web parts. Hero web part, I'm not going to spend much time on it because it's a pretty static web part. As far as this is concerned, as I said, this is an SPFX web part, so I can't really, make any modifications over here. Down at the bottom, when I scroll down, here's my news web part. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this web part here. and then show you that as soon as I make a site a hub site, a new data source gets added over here. You can actually open up any communication site which is not a hub site, and you'll see that this data source does not exist in there. All sites in the hub. So pretty much what it's doing is that it's rolling up information from all of the associated sites, all of the different team sites, all of the different communication sites over to the hub site. Unfortunately, there is no filter condition yet. There's no way to actually promote any news from sub-sites over to, or from associated sites over to the main site. It's pretty much what you have in there, just rolls up over here, and then you just see it right here. Okay. So scroll down and let's take a look at the documents, which is the highlighted contents web part. The highlighted contents web part is, again, you're going to see the data source over here. The same thing applies with this as well. As soon as you make a site as a hub site, you're going to see the data source in here, which is all sites in the hub. And select the data source, and you can actually specify a few filters over here, like type of the document, the document type, or any of the filters like, filter it by the title, filter it by search words. So you can actually apply a few filters over here. But the main thing I wanted to show you was the presence of the data source, which is all sites in the hub. Now, and let's scroll down to the sites web part, click on that, and the same thing over here as well. You can use the sites web part on other pages, which is not a hub site, but on the hub site, only you will see all sites in the hub data source. And pretty much all the activities from the sub-site roll over to the hub site. So let's get out of here. And okay, click on publish, and so this, you get a pretty good idea of what a hub site is all about. By the way, up in the top, you can only have three levels of navigation up in the top. You can't have anything more than that. And so that's pretty much it for the overview. The good thing about it is that, and let's just go ahead and touch base about a broader picture. So this is a broader picture about my information architecture, and it could be possible that I can actually have several different hub sites in my organization. So in my case over here, I have, so anything which is yellow is a hub site, anything which is green is a hub site, anything which is yellow are the communication sites, anything which is blue are team sites, and in black you have customizations, SPFX customizations and stuff like that. So you can see over here that I have 3 hub sites in my information architecture. One is, let's just say, the verticals, which is all about the departments. The second one is the AQL managed services, which actually has got sites, and those sites are associated, and those sites are the managed practices. So in my organizations, I consider managed services as a completely different practice. Whereas on the other side, the AQL core practices, again, I have the same technologies, but these might be project-based. These might be project-based, work that we do over here versus selling, subscription or pack of hours, on the AQL managed services. So in your case, it could be different. In your case, it could be just departments, and we'll just talk about that down the line. But so this is an information architecture pretty common to IT companies. If I wanted to change this architecture down the line, let's just say that, hey, the CEO says, we want to go ahead and merge. We want to go ahead and take out AQL managed services completely out of the picture, and then merge all the managed services communication sites over to the AQL core practice. Now, if these were sub-sites, and if this was a classic information architecture, this will cost me time and money to actually go ahead and change this. Because now I have to go ahead and move the sites around. I have to go ahead and take a look at features, take a look at security, take a look at several different things before I can actually change the architecture. So which is this, okay? So let's just say from this, I want to convert this over to something this, which is there is no AQL managed services hub site anymore in the picture, but now this hub site connects directly over to all the different sites. The good thing is that in the hub sites, this is just a breeze. It's a piece of cake. And so let's go ahead and take a look at that. This does not take any time at all to change the information architecture, and that's the best thing about it. So this site over here is the AQL practices hub site. Again, just going back to, sorry. So this is the AQL core practices, and it's got all these different sites. I'm going to go ahead and associate the managed services practice to it. And just showing you the settings, hub site settings. It's got some of these settings over here. And it's got, I think if I scroll down to the bottom, I'm going to see, yeah. So these are the different hub sites. These are the different associated sites of this hub site. Now, all I got to do is I'm going to open up the new managed services, like the SharePoint managed services, and click on site information. Now, talking about changing the architecture here. And then I'm going to go ahead and choose AQL practices over here. Just choose AQL practices here. Hit on save. Do the same thing for K2, let's just say. Practices, Office 365. So really what I'm doing is that I'm changing the whole information architecture over here, and it's taking me no time. So I've actually done that for 3 of these over here. And you can actually see that the theme, the logo, the branding, all of that changes. Before, this was, I believe, the same as this over here, which is the white branding, I think. But now it's black and yellow here. So the branding has completely changed as soon as I associate these to the hub site. And not just that, we'll take a look in a second that even the scope, the content roll-up also changes, which means that now these sites are not going to be rolling up all their news and documents over to the previous site, over to the previous hub site, but to the new hub site, which actually matters a lot because all of this, within a few minutes, all of the news information, which was actually coming from the hub sites, it's just going to disappear because they're just not associated with this hub site anymore. And you'll start seeing them in the new hub site. It takes like 5-10 minutes or so because there are timer jobs behind the scenes that need to run, and they take its own course when doing that. So, and I believe even down at the bottom, okay, this might also take a little bit of time, but you know, all these take a little bit of time, 5-10 minutes, but before that, all of that get updated. So I can already see the sites under my new hub site. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and talk about hub site benefits. What kind of benefits do we get with this new feature of hub site? So the first one is the same color theme, and yeah, I've just seen that. As soon as I change as soon as I associate that with the new hub sites, you know, just the theme completely changes. And what I can also show you is that if I click on, so this is now associated, the SharePoint Managed Services site is an associated site of a hub site. If I click on change the look, and if I want to change the branding on this, I can't do that. I cannot change the branding on the associated sites anymore. Whereas I could do it on the hub site itself. Go to the hub site, click on change the look, and I have all these different options. So that's one of the main things that the same color theme, you know, it just gets applied to all the subsites. The second one is the scope search. So this is a pretty decent thing, I think, because now what happens is that you know, once you associate all these hub sites, once you associate these sites to the hub site, and then you try doing a search, then the search scope is limited only to the associated sites. So you are really searching only within the scope. So you can actually have hundreds and hundreds of sites, but as soon as you associate the hub sites, and your hub sites could be just projects, departments, or just one simple department, and under that department, like for example, it could be the finance department. Under finance department, you can have multiple associated sites. And when you do a search, by default, the search scope is limited only to the hub sites, or only to the sites within the hub sites, which is only to the associated sites. That's a good part about it. The third thing is a common navigation. You have seen that the navigation applies to, you know, the navigation just applies straight across all of those associated sites. And then the content roll-up. Yes, so the content roll-up is all the news, all the articles are being rolled up from the associated sites to the hub site. Again, it doesn't trickle down. It doesn't trickle down from the main site to the associated sites, but it's the other way around, which is it aggregates all the news, all the documents from the associated sites, and then show it right on the hub site itself. I see there are a few questions over here. Can a site be associated with more than one hub site? So Danya, that's not possible. You can associate a site only to one hub site. You cannot associate one site to multiple hub sites. That is not possible as of yet. Can you make SharePoint? So this is a second question from Jamie. Can you make SharePoint sites created from teams into a hub site? Yes, you can have modern team sites, and you can actually make those modern team sites as the hub site. You can also associate classic team sites to a hub site, but from what I know, unless something has changed last week, the theme does not flow to the classic pages. The theme flows only to the modern pages. So even let's just say that your classic site has got classic pages as well as modern pages. And if you associate the classic site over to a hub site, just the modern pages will start to show the new theme. The classic pages will not. So this is from Tanya. Kindly explain security for docs you do not want to appear in the new/docs of the Anchor hub site. So the security, I'm going to talk a little bit about security as well down the line. The security does not get impacted. Whatever security you have, anything that the user sees on the home page is all security trimmed. So which means that if I didn't have access to a certain hub, to a certain associated site, if I didn't have access to a certain document in a certain repository or in a certain document library in one of the associated sites, it will not. It's all security trimmed, and it does not show me those documents on the hub site. There seems to be a few more questions as well. So here's a pretty good question. In other words, I do not want the news to appear without reading it, editing it, and approving it first, since others will be providing the content. Okay, so really the question is that, hey, is there an approval workflow for news to roll up? There is none as of right now. In the modern sites, maybe the communication site or maybe the team sites, they don't really have an approval mechanism as of yet. Even from what I know, even for the news. So any news that you enter in there, it's just going to be rolled over to the hub site. If you need an approval workflow, or if you have approvals that needs to be done, the sad part is that Microsoft still recommends people to be using the classic publishing feature, because the modern sites do not still have that feature yet. Microsoft has got the whole big vision of modern UI, and they are just deploying smaller pieces of this modern UI into the cloud. And that's the reason you're going to see some of the functionality, like you might actually see hub sites, or you might see communication sites or team sites, which are responsive. You can actually access them right from the browser. You can access them right from your cell phone. But again, they don't have the functionality that some of the classic features, some of the classic sites did. And I believe that, it's going to be a little more time before Microsoft releases some of those features. So, is the Anchor hub site equal to a standard home page? That's a very good question. I'm just going to hold off before I answer that question, because that's almost like a discussion in itself. Let's go over to the next slide over here. Web parts we need to talk about. I think we did talk about sites, web part, highlighted content, and the news web part. So let's go ahead and talk about the global navigation and then the content rollup. So actually what you see is you see a global navigation and then you see a local navigation, and let me go ahead and flash it to you in a second. So what you see in any of the sites over here is you see a global navigation, and this is, which is the hub navigation. I'm going to refer this as a global navigation because this is going to be available on all the sites which are part of the hub sites. And then there's another navigation, which is usually over here. And if I select, like, for example, over here, so this is the global navigation, and this is the hub navigation that you see over here, or the local navigation that comes along with the communication sites. So the question is that, so there's a little bit of confusion around this over here, which is, how does the global navigation, work with the content rollup? So let's just say in the global navigation side, I have SharePoint, .NET, Power BI, Dynamics CRM, and Salesforce URLs in there. And again, let's not forget the global navigation is just static. So, and remember, I also added Yahoo in there. So really the thing is that you can add as many sites as you want to the global navigation, and then the content rollup does not get affected. So if you go to the next slide, it could be possible that I have associated only SharePoint, .NET, Power BI, Dynamics, only these 4 communication sites over to my practice hub site. So the content rollup is just going to happen from these 4 websites. It does not matter what I see in the global navigation. The global navigation can point to 30 different sites, but the content rollup only happens from the sites that have been associated with the hub site. It's a simple concept, but it's a little confusing. So I thought I'll just go ahead and sketch out this diagram here. These are, so for those of you who don't have access to PowerShell, you can close your eyes for a second over here. These are, the typical PowerShell commands that needs to be run. The first command is connecting SharePoint Online to Office 365. The second one is registering your hub site as registering a communication site as, or a team site as a hub site. And the third one is if you want to go ahead and grant permissions. I'll talk about granting permissions and governance in a second. So let's talk about planning a hub site, things that you got to keep in mind when you're planning a hub site. The first thing is think about hub sites for key functions, and those key functions can very well be, just things like departments like HR, finance, communication, public relations, legal, IT, or it could be because for a fact that these departments can have several different sites underneath them. So might as well, consider making each department as a hub site. Also, don't forget that there's no targeted navigation yet. So how will the audience see them? Keep in mind that there's no targeted audience, and there might be it's just static. And Microsoft is talking about implementing the targeted navigation, but there's just no release date as of yet. One hub versus multiple hubs, and this is one of the questions that should I just have one single hub or should I have multiple hubs? Do you want to have an intranet where your home page itself is a hub site connected to several department sites which are associated sites? You can do that as well. You have your home page is the hub site, and you have departments, and each department is an associated site. Okay, so or do you want to have every department site is an associated site? So complex is your information architecture. Related information under a hub site. So that's one of the things you got to keep in mind. Think of related information that users would like to know and put it all under a hub site. Like all the projects, can be the PMO hub. It could also be possible that, hey, you know what? You don't need a hub. It could, hub sites are designed to create families of related sites. If there's no family, you don't need a hub. And sites can be associated with one hub, but hub families can be connected using links or hub navigation, which is something that I have just shown you. You don't have to keep associating sites to a hub site, but you can still take advantage of the global navigation. So this way you don't have the news will not be rolled up or content will not be rolled up, but they still would be part of the top navigation. And there are a few limitations. I'm going to talk about limitations in a second. One of them is only 50 hub sites per tenant. You can't really have any more than 50 hub sites per tenant, by the way. So I think that this answers your question, which is the Anchor hub site equal to a standard homepage? And actually, I'll talk about that in a second a little more as well. Now let's talk about strategy. Strategy to put your hubs together. So top of the bat, I could think of 3 points: organizational or functional, portfolio, and geographic. So I think that when it comes down to organizational or functional, these could be like, again, the departments. Portfolio, you can group related projects such as all the projects or communication sites associated with a major acquisition or integration. And geographic, you can come up with hubs which relate to your geography, like US sales or regional sales, or like Midwest, Northeast, but just keep in mind that even though Office 365 supports the multi-geo sites feature, but hub sites do not. And hub sites, all of them, have to be the same geographic location. But you can still, just go ahead and create a functional, logical, separation out of that and create hub sites based on the geography. Let's talk about governance now. Governance is one of those important things. So I think let's just talk about governance and I see there are 3 ways that you can actually associate that you can actually govern who can associate sites to the hub sites. The first one is just add all the site owners, which means that anybody who's a site owner can add that hub site, can add that associated site to any hub sites out there. Yeah, it's just as easy as that. Remember when I was running the PowerShell command and I did not enter any principals in there, and I'll flash that to you over here. I'm not going to run any commands over here, but remember when I ran this register command and then I did not enter any principals over here. So this is pretty much what I'm saying is that, hey, any site owners can associate their hub site, can associate their sites over to this hub site. So, and there's no approval mechanism. The second one is add users explicitly. What I can say is that, I would want to have only user 1, user 2, user 3 be able to associate sites over to a hub site. Okay, so which means that every single time when I go to my hub site, I'm not surprised because some site owner has added their hub site or has added their site over to my hub site. And as you know, content, keeps rolling up, maybe the news, maybe documents, maybe branding, so all of that, actually branding trickles down, but the content rolls up from associated sites to the hub site. So I wouldn't be surprised to see new hub sites. So this might actually be a good way to add users explicitly and say that only these users would be able to add any associated sites to my hub site. The third approach is a little complicated. Actually, for the first 2 approaches, you will need PowerShell. You can only do that using PowerShell. For the third approach, this is part of the Azure Active Directory, and you will need to have access to Azure Active Directory. And the way this is done, and this is more for the admins, even the first 2 might be is PowerShell and it's only for admins, but the third one is access to Azure Active Directory. But the good part is that you create a certain security group in Azure Active Directory, and then you associate that, and you do that just once, and you associate that group, that security group, over to SharePoint Hub site. And after that, anybody who's part of the security group will have the permissions to associate sites. The difference being that over here in the second approach, I'm adding by user. In the approach 3, I'm actually adding a whole group to the hub site. So for the for the Azure Active Directory savvy guys, the mail-enabled security group is it's part of the Active Directory Universal Security Group object, and it can be used to assign access permissions to resources in Active Directory. So let's talk about permissions over here. Meanwhile, let me just see if there are any more questions. Checking questions. Okay. Question out of the box: can you target content to team members in a specific geographic location Yeah, so I think I just answered that question. So give me a second here. I think there's a poll which is running right now. Okay, so I think we're done with the poll. Hopefully everybody can see my screen here. So let's talk about permissions. So permissions is a pretty major part. Unfortunately, the permissions has got nothing to do with the hub site. Whatever permissions you have within the associated sites, it's all security trim. Permissions do not roll from the hub site over to the subsites. Content type / site column rollup. Again, the same thing. Since these are completely different site collections, there is no content type or site column rolling down from the hub site over to the associated sites, or nothing the other way around as well. There's no rolling from subsites or the associated sites over to the hub site. Hub site is an intranet homepage. Again, this goes back to the same question. And again, this is more kind of like a discussion rather than just one simple question. There's one last poll that I got to pop. This might take another 30 seconds, and then we can complete the session and then announce a lucky winner as well. Cool. See, a lot of people are doing migrations. All right, so let's talk about hub site as intranet homepage. I personally think that hub site as an intranet homepage might not be a good option. The reason being that, actually, you can actually start hub site as an intranet homepage in your organization, but as the information architecture evolves, the good thing about hub site is that you can actually change the information architecture. You can unassociate those sites which were, the associated sites of a hub site. Like, for example, you can have like finance as an associated site, IT as an associated site, sales as associated site to your intranet, and your intranet homepage is the hub site. So all of these are just connected to the hub site. But down the line, as your information architecture evolves, what you can do is that you can make finance as its own hub site, because now you can have several different projects underneath it. You can make HR its own hub site. So because there might be benefits, they can be talent acquisition sites. There could be, a lot of different, sites underneath it. So you can actually make HR as the hub site itself. And then all those different sites underneath it would be the associated sites. So I think that an intranet is a little complicated thing, and just making the intranet homepage as a hub site will not suffice for way too long. Down the line, you will have to go ahead and break their information architecture. And again, the good thing is that it doesn't take much to break their information architecture because of the hub site feature. And then you can associate all those, and you can make all those associated sites as a hub site in itself down the line. A few limitations here. Changes to global navigations might even take 2 hours to reflect in the associated sites because there are jobs behind the scenes. Classic Experience SharePoint sites that are associated with the hub site will retain their original theme, but the modern pages within those classic sites will inherit the theme. Users can create maximum 50 hub sites for an organization. Multi-geo hub sites are not supported. One hub site cannot be joined to another hub site. Sites that are already associated to another hub can be converted to a hub site, which means you cannot have nested hub sites. You have to unhub it before you hub it again, before you create a hub out of it. No targeted navigation or taxonomy driven. No publishing workflows. List of hub sites not available in SharePoint Admin Center, only using PowerShell. So if you wanted to have a list of all those hub sites, you got to run PowerShell. Be ready for that. No solution yet for content type management or new rollup. So with that being said, there are 2 new features which are rolling out: targeted navigation And I don't have the release dates for that, but targeted navigation will be a feature for Microsoft. And new theme site templates for subsites. So when you create subsites within a site collection, within a theme site, or within a communication site, even if it's a modern site, you're going to see that the subsites within that site does not have a modern template. So Microsoft is considering that. Hopefully they come out with that feature pretty soon. So now let's go ahead and do the announcement. I'm gonna have Patrick take it from here. I think I might have even flashed the lucky winners for a second over here. So if you're one of those lucky winners, just be patient.
I'm here.
All right, sir. Do you want to go ahead and do the announcement here?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. So we appreciate everyone that registered for the giveaway, and the two winners we have are Lance Willingham and Marshall Benson, and we look forward to seeing you in Boston in just a couple weeks. Please stop by our booth, and you can have a one-on-one with Samir at that time. Thanks for everyone that signed up. By the way, we'll do something similar to this. We're going to be at SP Tech in Chicago at the end of the year in December. So stay tuned to our Tech Talks. We'll have another one in September. And thank you for your support.
Awesome. Guys, that's a full 4-day pass. I think it's worth $1,400. All you got to do to keep connected with us and participate in our lucky draw is part of our, just make sure that you have webinars at aqltech.com listed as your safe sender so that you receive our notifications. And again, congratulations to those who just won those lucky pass. Please feel free to stop by at the booth and, let's just have a chat. And meanwhile, I think that we just have a few more minutes. If you have any more questions, please go ahead and ask me those questions. Okay, so what if we're using a hybrid setup? That was one of the questions. This is just not part of the on-prem. This is just part of SharePoint Online. I'm just going through these questions over here. I think I answered most of them, or pretty much all of them. Do not use AD. Do not use AD if you do not want just any member creating a hub site association. Correct. Use PowerShell. So the thing is that the Active Directory, creating an Active Directory security group and associating that with your hub site, might not be a bad idea. The reason being that you create a security group once, and then you can populate those people or those owners or those users that you want will be managing all of the hub sites. And then every single time a hub site is created, you can just associate, instead of individually associating all those users, to manage the hub sites, you can just associate that Active Directory group over to the hub site. So it just becomes easier, and then also the thing is the next time when you want to add someone, you can just go ahead and add them to the Active Directory group, and all those hub sites which are connected to that Active Directory group, for managing those, for managing the hub sites, that gets in effect right away. If not, let's just say if you have individual users assigned to every single hub site for managing the hub site, then the thing is that you will have to add that user to all those hub sites. Do hub sites affect server size/space? I have not heard about any such thing, and hub sites is a barely new feature. We will know that down the line, but as of right now, I don't think that hub site actually affects the server size or space. The size of of a modern theme site in itself is 1 GB, which is actually 1 TB. I'm sorry, 1 terabyte, which is actually a lot in itself. So I don't think it can actually get any more than that. There was another question. Could you show the previous slide about the hub site? And this was Lakshmi. Yeah, sure, why not? Let me roll back all the way. Going back in time here. Okay. So I think that, I'm not sure which slide were you talking about. Was it, I think that either it was this over here, this is what the whole managed services demo was about, or it might be the second one over here where I have this whole jungle of several different hub sites, and it does not take me much to associate or unassociate a website or a hub site over to another hub site. All right, so I think that that's pretty much it. Do you guys have any more questions for me? Thank you, guys. Please keep connected, and looking forward to see you in my next session. I think the next session is going to be about migrations. Please keep connected. Thank you so much for attending this session. Okay, oh, you know what? I see another question from Tanya. Office Groups SharePoint site is an example of a modern site. Yes, the Office 365 Groups SharePoint site, yes, it is an example of a modern site. So really what happens, and I can flash you this real fast in a second, you're going to see the broader picture of this. I have an infograph around this. So really what happens is that when you are creating an Office 365 groups, really what happens behind the scenes is this picture over here. So Tanya, hopefully you're there. So if you are creating and you create an Office 365 group from, let's just say, Outlook over here, so Mail over here. So when you create an Office 365 group from Mail, then really all these different things happen, which is the Outlook email box gets created, Power BI workspace gets created, a SharePoint Outlook, SharePoint Calendar gets created, Planner, and then also the SharePoint site gets created over here. And that's a modern theme site. It's not the classic theme site that we've been using for years. This is the modern theme site. The modern theme site is directly associated with the Office 365 group. If you create the Office 365 group, then the modern theme site gets deleted. If you delete the SharePoint site, then the associated Office 365 group gets deleted. Okay. All right, guys. So it's 11 o'clock Central Standard Time. I think we're done with our webinar. Please fill out the feedback. It helps me improve myself. And thank you so much for attending this session. Have a very great week.